That was one of the biggest hits I ever seen in high school football, bro. Pittsburgh High, George Jordan, when he hit Leon Callan from De La Salle on that pitch outside. He did a little toss outside, and he didn't have nobody in front of him. He looked up, caught the ball. Why? They both was laid out, knocked out on the bro.
Welcome back, man. We got another amazing episode set up for y'all. My name is Kenny Edwards with the Rec Center TV. We changed our name. We're not the podcast anymore. You guys have spoken loudly that you prefer the YouTube better. So we Rec Center TV now. So check us out. But again, my name is Kenny Edwards, joined by my co-host Lorenzo Parham. Man, we already was talking a little bit off camera, but I'm excited, bro. I'm excited. How you been?
I'm doing good, man. You excited? Hey, this guest we got on, Ken, man, this was a rival in two sports, baseball and football, and I have never once beat this dude team in nothing, right? Nothing have I beat this dude team in, man. So it's going to be great to hear how he even made the transition to how he went from this baseball player that I knew him as to this all-star football player to go play college Division I football, man. So, man, great interview headed up, man. Let's bring them on, man. Brother, bring on Anthony, TwoBob, Limbrick. TwoBob, what's going on, man?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me, man. Low weekend.
Yeah. Thanks for being on, man. Thanks for being on. Like I was just saying, man, I couldn't be the Spray Mart team. I couldn't be the Cobra team. And I think I got my shit bashed by everybody on that Duvernay team when you was 15, right? So, hey, just that rivalry and that, man. Just, but what it did, man, playing against you guys' team, it kept a competitive nature around me, man. It wasn't no, I could have easily, you know what, they got them. Let me go join Allen Temple because they beefing with Allen Temple. But the competitive nature in me was like, hey, man, I'm sticking to my pal roots, and we got to get it done one day. That's just how we cut where we from. You know what I'm saying? That's what Oakland Breeze feels. We don't do too many jumping on the bandwagons. We want to beat these dudes that we challenge ourselves, man. So thanks for coming on, man. A lot of things I want to ask you about. One of the other great things I want to talk about, man, we can get that later on in the show, is your dad, man, because you might not know it, man, but your dad played a big part in a lot of dudes' lives that been around.
Yeah,
man.
I know it.
I remember in junior high school, your dad reffing the basketball game. He was the referee. And we playing in junior high. He reffed the game. And then the next day, he see me pitching in Oakland Bay Roof. He like, dude, you a baseball player? I thought you was a hooper. I'm like, nah, I like baseball. That was just fun last night, right? And your dad just always kept that respect. And everybody got to take their hats out to your father, man. Because even seeing him now with your nephews at the baseball field, he's still the same way, man. So very commendable to your father. And we can speak highly about him later on in the show, man.
Right on,
so,
man.
Bob, like we was talking, Bob, we know, man, I know, and I always thought you was this good baseball dude, right? We're going to talk about the transition of football because I met you on a baseball diamond, and I want to know how did the transformation come to being this football guy. So like you said, man, you started off, so when you're talking offline, you're talking about you not being the best baseball player on the team, but the guys you named, the Omari Murphy, the Joe Mars, stuff like that, I know you're 2 years younger than them dudes. So it's likely you wasn't the best on that team because you were younger than them guys, man. What kind of motor did they give you, man, to get to the point where you were as an Oakland Bay legend?
Man, like I said, I grew up watching these guys. We were talking and looking up to a lot of these guys. And what motivated me was, like you said earlier, wanting to compete, man. We always had a competitive nature growing up, whether we played dome ball at Greenman Field, whether it was basketball, football, whatever it was, we wanted to be competitive. And back in those days, man, being at the field, being at Greenman Field and being at the rec centers, as you say, all we did was play ball, man, and compete against each other. And some of that became like a lot of bonding and brotherhood. So I didn't want to let my teammates down. I like you said, my dad had me out there. My dad coached a lot of great players and a lot of dudes, and I didn't want to be out there being the weakest link. So after noticing he was talking about striking out, man, I remember I was on the team and being one of the weakest links on the team. And after that summer, I think I was about 12 years old. I kind of dedicated myself to staying focused getting, man. I came back a player, man, and I was able to contribute to my team and be bring some value and not a liability, man. But like I said, I grew up watching those dudes, man, and wanting to be like those dudes, man. I remember the first time I started switch hitting. I started switch hitting because I love Ken Griffey Jr. That was one of my favorite players. But I kind of modeled my game after that with my left hand. But really, I don't know if y'all remember Michael Whitlock.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know if y'all remember Michael Whitlock when you were older. I started switch hitting because I love Michael Whitlock's swing on that left hand side, And I used to really look up to them dudes, man. So those are some of my inspirations growing up, man.
Hey, TwoBob, you mentioned I talked earlier about how we were rivals, but one of your biggest rivals in Oakland Beirut was no other than Jimmy Rollins. Y'all the same age. Y'all played on the two rival teams, right? Allen Temple, where it was Spray Mart, Cobras, and I remember at 12, battles, right? I remember at 12, and it was some dog teams in our league. But at 12 years old, I'm thinking of the people that's on your team: Michael Denard, you, Ronnie, Matthew Cobbs, and them guys, right? That then on Allen Temple, they got Big Eric and Jimmy Rollins and Michael O'Brien, all of them, right?
Yeah.
Those were some real matchups, man. And it was like if we was like, even as players, to see you guys fighting for that championship, we would have paid to see that type of stuff going on at Oakland Beirut. And that just the competitor. What was it like, man, all of them years against Jimmy Rollins? Because I remember y'all tagged Jimmy when he got 13. At 13, and that mound got a little further, Jimmy couldn't see y'all no more.
It changed, man. It changed from that 12 to that 13 because, you get players grow, we get bigger and stronger. So the players that didn't quite adapt was the players that didn't quite grow during that summer, during that period of time, getting bigger and stronger. But, man, we have history of battles playing against Jimmy, Allen Temple against the Cobras, where the stands was packed, man. I know y'all remember. And everybody's chanting. We got the stands over here chanting Cobras. We got over here talking about AAT. It used to go down. Man, those games was the big time games, man. It was like what we lived for playing Oakland Beirut, man. Oakland Beirut was big time in Oakland when we played. It was the show. Like you said, I remember going against you guys, man, getting ready for Lolo and them, Every time we played, man, we respected the star. We respected it, and it was a big time game. Yeah.
Hey, Ken, quick story, man. So 2x15, and everybody that was on my pal team at 13 that won it, they went to Duvernay. Eddie talked to me.
Y'all had Shine. Y'all had Big Shine in them too, right?
We had Shine, right? Only me and Shine. Hey, but Eddie got Duvernay with these good uniforms, right? So Ken, they line up, and I got a pitch. They line up, lead off with Cam Alexander. Then it goes to you got Abdul, you got Travis. So if you make a mistake between your first three batters, your fourth batter you got to see is TwoBob. Now, how do I want to pitch to TwoBob? I think I threw Bob 15 straight curveballs.
That's all I used to see was curveball. We had Pocky Ray.
That's an Oakland High guy.
Mike Grace. And then we had the first Mike Magruder.
I remember that.
So Ken, you got to think all these names he just threw on there wasn't on Cobra team, but by the time they got 15, they all on one team. Yeah. And TwoBob just talk about his switch hitting, right? It's easy to throw Bob a curve when he's on his right hand side.
Right.
I'm trying to throw him a curve on his left hand side, and his curve is Ken. We got McConnell. He's slapping the shit out of my curveball. So I'm like, you know what? Ken, outside that time. Outside. We just go throw him outside low fastball. He walk, right? Because one thing you didn't want to do back then is get hit out the park. You couldn't live that down, man. But Bob was a feared pitcher. Batter in that batter box, man. So one of the things, Bob, I didn't hear too much about you playing youth football. Did you play youth football?
I didn't play youth football, and that was the thing. I was one of those like you. I was considered an athlete, I was really a baseball player, to be honest. I played basketball regularly. We all played basketball from Parks and Recreation all the way through. So I played basketball and I played baseball. Um, I went out there to Oakland Dynamites, man, seeing all them studs out there, man. You know, the superstar days when all Oakland Dynamites was the bomb. We go out there, see Oakland Dynamites. I'm watching them play. I think I practiced with them one day. I said, nah, this ain't for me. I went out there to San Leandro Crusaders. I think I practiced with them maybe a week. And I was like, nah, this ain't for me, you know. So I really didn't play youth football. I was like you. That's your story, right, Lo? Yeah.
Right,
I didn't
right,
play
right.
youth football. I didn't play youth football to ninth grade, man. I didn't play football until ninth grade when this how the story happened. It's a funny story. I was a basketball player, like I said. I was a basketball and football player. A basketball and baseball player for the most part. But when I got in junior high, I went to King. We went to King Estates and we played basketball. Everybody played basketball. But when I played basketball back in the days, Coach Kariaku, I don't know if y'all remember Coach K and Coach Bean, used to work with Parks and Rec, and they used to run the gyms. So we used to play like the Guy Wright tournaments and the Christmas tournaments at Merritt and in the different spots playing basketball, man. And one day after basketball, one of those basketball games, I was athlete, so I wasn't great in basketball, but I could score and run up and down the court, jump and get rebounds. So I used to make all-tourney team, like scoring a couple of points and getting rebounds. Coach Bean talked to me about playing football. I think I was in the 8th grade or something. I was like, man, I ain't interested in football, Coach. I tried it before. Long story short, fellas, I ended up transferring. I was at King. I ended up transferring to Monterey. In the 9th grade, I was at Monterey. And we had a couple of players like Corey Collins and a couple of these dudes that I knew from playing ball back in the day. They were star football players. One day, them dudes came and I seen them, and it was like, Coach Bean keep asking about you, man. And I was like, well, I don't really play football, man. They was like, well, won't you come out? I swear I was in the 9th grade going to Monterey. They was like, won't you come out to practice? He wanted to meet you and talk to you, whatever. I go out to practice, man, and end up playing football, getting influenced by Coach Bean. Man, won't you come out and play football? I ended up playing football, man. In the 9th grade was my first year playing football. Organized, real competitive, organized football in the 9th grade. So that's how that ended up, man.
How was it when you got there? Because we had Arthur Young on the show, first episode. Shout out to Arthur Young. He talked about how the Dynamites was that transition to Skyline. So the same studs you saw at the Dynamites, you saw at Skyline. How did you maneuver to get your place in the field when you first got to the team?
I didn't, man. Like I always said, man, I always came in humble, man. I have humble roots, man. My dad always kind of had me that way, man. You always got to work hard, man. You ain't better than nobody, always work hard. So I never really had the big head. So I came in, to be honest, feeling like the underdog. Like you were saying, man, we had Arthur Young, Derek Gardner's, we had my boy Oliver Newells. We had all Cahill Jones. We had your boy Clarence Lewis was raw back then. I mean, we had Corey Collins. They had studs back then, man. And,
but Bob, you naming guys that's a couple years older than you. I'm thinking about in your class alone that was coming from the Dynamites. You had your boy Joe Cannon. You had Lamar. You had Eddie Kent. You had Devron. So just even in your class alone, it was some studs that was coming. You had Leon. So you guys have some real studs in your
Big Frank. You right.
Big Frank. Y'all have some studs just in your class alone that helped. How did they help you even when you came out? Like, hey, you know what, bro? This is what football like. Even though you humble, we gonna have to bring a football dog out of you that we do see in you later on as you get to your junior and senior year. But what kind of transition did they have in your freshman year?
Them dudes had a lot to do with it, man, because I watched how they approached the game of football, man. When I went up to Skyline, I was impressed by how a lot of them dudes knew how to play football. They've been playing a long time. It wasn't just about running, tackling. It was about knowing how to play. And that's one thing that we did at Skyline that made us competitive. We had some good coaching, and And a lot of them dudes played a lot of football, you know. So coming in, them dudes knew how to play football, man. Them dudes were football players. So just modeling my mentality after them, transitioning from baseball, like you said, to modeling my mentality after them was kind of how I adapted to that, man. But it was rough to be, like I said, them older dudes, why I'm naming that is because those are the ones that kicked my butt. Them double days and them one-on-ones. I remember lining up at
Man.
wide receiver one-on-ones going against Derek Gardner, which you know he played at Cal and then to the and the NFL. I couldn't get off the line. Yeah, you know. So I had to work, man. It was intimidating, man. Them dudes could hit. They was hitting hard. Bats was cracking out there. So shit, I just came out there, like you said, I didn't want to let my teammates down. So I always play. One thing I did was I ran hard and I played hard. I figured if I run hard and I play hard, man, you know, I can't go wrong, bro. I pick up the rest.
So did you make
I think that's
varsity
why a
your
lot of
10th
my
grade
teammates
year?
appreciated me, man. Huh?
I said, did you
What's
make
up,
that
Lo?
varsity team? Did you make that varsity team your 10th grade year or your 11th grade year?
If you want to know the truth, I really made the varsity team my ninth grade year.
Damn.
But I wasn't old enough to play varsity once the season started because you were supposed to be 15 once the OAL started. So my
Right.
transition to the ninth grade to the 10th grade, I was the only freshman on the team. Because I went to Hawaii. We went to Hawaii. I don't know if y'all remember. We went to Hawaii that
I
year. I
played. I
think it was
played
like
St. Louis,
95. Yeah. We
95.
went
Right.
to Hawaii that first. I was the youngest one on the team when we went to Hawaii. We played out there in Hawaii. Um, that's when my transition. That was that summer of ninth grade, going into the 10th grade. So I wasn't even at Skyline yet, and so that's what we did, man. So I really played. So I played that JV year because I wasn't old enough to play varsity. So that preseason, I really played varsity and JV because I played a varsity game and I played a JV game, and then after the JV game, I switched my jersey and played a varsity game after that.
Mm.
So
That's
that was
crazy.
in 10th grade. Yep. So we went into it playing football, man. Shoot, I just was an athlete, man. I just went out there and had fun, man. I've been playing
So,
baseball, varsity baseball since ninth grade, stepping into it.
so when you say that, I'm thinking about that 10th grade year, your 10th grade year. You know, Fremont got the guys of Lou Fisher and James Thompson and them
Wow.
guys, right? So
Wow.
you
Yep.
had to see Lou Fisher. You had to see Lou Fisher not only on that baseball diamond, but also on the football field, man. A lot of
Joe
respect to
did.
Lou, man. But what was that competitive like? Like we watched Lou come through Babe Ruth and then get on the mound and throw 90 miles per hour in a game, you know, and you in the batter's box against that, man. What was that like?
Lou Fisher was the man, like you said, hands down. He was one of them dudes that you had to come with your A game, man, or you wasn't gonna be able to stand in that plate. You know, man. I used to just come and my mentality facing Lou, like you said, starting off in baseball first. When I played him in baseball, my mentality was just he gonna throw a fastball, man. I'm just gonna swing at a fastball, man.
Just try to time it up.
That's it, bro. So I used to time it up, man. And what happens, man. I happened to get a couple of base hits and get on base, man. I was happy with that. But
Right.
he was a competitor, man. He was one of them best players that I played coming up, man, and watching, man. He was tough. And then he could turn around and do it on the football field, like you said. It was a full threat.
Man,
It wasn't too many
absolutely,
two
man.
sport athletes. Yep. He was
Absolutely.
raw, man.
So so watching your transition, man, from what it sounds like is, man, you got the football and you got a love for football, man, where you put that work in, you got a love for it. It's amazing to say, man, I'm on varsity my 10th grade freshman year at Skyline and I never played football before. And I'm on a team
Yeah.
with the professionals that go to the professionals, man. That had
Yes.
shots. Will Blackwell was Will Blackwell there or was he gone? He was there.
No, he was gone when I got there. Yeah. No,
He
he
was
was
gone
gone when I got there.
a
Yeah.
year before. So you know, a year before you got there. But all them
Yep.
dudes, of Marvell Smith, like so you on the team as a
That
freshman
was my boy.
with Marvell and them guys and seeing that, man. Imagine if you picked up football as early as you picked up baseball. You know what that transition would have been like, man. So one of the things me and Ken want to talk about is these Skyline teams, right? Your Skyline years. I want to go 97, your senior year. Y'all win everything,
Okay.
but how many games did y'all lose that season?
So technically we lost We lost against Logan, De La Salle, and we lost 2 games. We lost 3 games, but they gave us a game back against the Berkeley High game, which we actually should have won. Berkeley High beat us at
What
Skyline.
happened with that? What happened with that? Hey, first of all, everybody was at that game. That Skyline, Berkeley High
Remember that
versus
game,
Skyline.
bro?
Y'all
That was a
great
big game.
athletes, and they got Hannibal and them over there. They got some great athletes as well. Hannibal, Dante Marsh was on that team.
Yeah.
Dante Marsh was on that team. They got some great athletes. What happened? How did they give y'all the win?
James Barnes. They had James Barnes on that team. They had some
JB was
squad.
on the team. They had a squad.
I was
Larry Young was on that team.
Larry, Larry Young was on that team. Yep. They sure was. They had squad, man. I can't remember. It was they we made a couple of mistakes, man, late in the game that cost us, a couple of turnovers. But we always I give them that game. They beat us. Oh no, I know what happened, Lo. We had senior cut day. That's what happened, bud. We had senior cut day. Joe Cannon, Leon, um, Maurice Bostic, remember Ash,
Ash,
Logwood. That was our
yeah.
starting lineup damn near. All them dudes didn't start. That's what happened. I didn't end up cutting for whatever reason. I was being square, but I didn't cut that game. So I ended up starting. But none of our big time players, dogs, started. Coach Bean thought Berkeley High was gonna be a team that we could come in and just, we could handle. He was gonna teach us a lesson and sit the boys out to the second half. We set our stars out to the second half, and it cost us, man. We had some players that didn't get a lot of playing time. I mean, we all a team, we all good as our weakest link. We know how it go. But we get some players out there that cost us some big plays late, early in the game, and then later in the game, a couple of fumbles and turnovers cost us a game, man. But they ended up giving us the game back on the record for a technicality. I think they ended up taking the loss because they did something wrong and had to forfeit or some crap. I don't remember, but we lost against Berkeley High, man. That sucked.
my wife went to Berkeley High. I swear to God, I hope she don't hear it. I hope she don't hear
Hated
it.
losing against Berkeley High, man.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Your wife did go to Berkeley High. Hey, and the thing about it, Ken, that Berkeley High and Skyline game was just bigger than the football game, right? So we show up because the number 2 school in the Bay Area with girls is Berkeley High and Skyline, right? So everybody's at the game, man. Everybody at the game, man, and it was a good game. But then that was your junior year. Y'all lost 2 games, 3 games technically, right? And then you leave and go to college. We'll get in that later. But then the team that come after you, the 98 team, right? Which team you think wins that game? 98 Skyline team or 97 Skyline team? 97?
We had that. I had that argument all the time with my boys, man, that played in that team, that undefeated team you talking about. Was that your year? That's your team?
That's my year.
Yeah.
That's my year, yeah.
That was your year.
That undefeated
Roger
year.
Ratliff and Dan Butellion team.
Ha.
Yeah.
So when you have this argument with your boys, what is your strong point for that debate?
Man, I think I'm gonna go for my team, man. I think we just had some tougher dogs. I say, man, the reason why y'all was good because y'all had to play with us. You feel me? So all our players, transition because when we was playing, Roger Ratliff played D line 97. If y'all know the story, Roger Ratliff couldn't even touch the ball with the running backs we had. Leon McDaniels, Eddie Kent, Joe Cannon, Lamar. We had some backs back there. Shoot, some of the best athletes at our school. Shit, Roger Ratliff, he played D line. He even touched the ball. So that'll tell you right there. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's an argument we have with Roger Ratliff too, man. Because even though he didn't run the ball all the time, that senior year was a hell of a year for Raj. And in the teams they beat Amador Valley. They beat a great Amador Valley team, St. Francis, Vallejo. They even beat that Vallejo team that was raw. That team that had CC didn't play, but they had the Bernsteins. They
CC played the year before. CC was my class. So we played that Vallejo team. They had the twins. Like you said, they had the twins. And the CC played. He left. He was there my year. Yeah. They had
Okay,
squad.
so
Blayo did have squad. Yeah.
they had squad, and then they beat the Berkeley High team, but of course that's after Dante Marsh left, right? Dante was Mac at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
time, right? So they
He
got
went.
an
Dante went.
argument. He went to Mac. They got a great argument, but like you said, y'all, some of y'all stars wasn't stars when we was here, right? Like y'all wasn't
But
stars
that's
when
how
we
it
was
goes.
here.
You know?
That
But that's how it
that's
goes.
how
You
it
know,
goes.
you gotta wait your turn. You know.
Hey, but how? So how did Bean figure out like, hey, Raj might be a running back, even though he never got them reps with y'all?
Because Skyline, like we was talking earlier, and like you was talking in your Arthur Young interview, Skyline was a program, man. Beam had Skyline set up where you came through the system. You know what I mean? We worked out in the morning. It was almost like a baby little college system. You know, you worked out early in the morning before school. You ate lunch, you worked out after school, and then you practiced. And then we went to tutoring, and we did tutoring too. So when you came in as a good athlete, we had all these stars before you. You had to, excuse me, you had to wait your turn. So you had to wait your turn and learn how to play ball at this level. And I think, I was one of the exceptions. Excuse me, I played early, but even though I played early, like I said, it's because I was an athlete. I still had to learn a lot to learn, and I still had to wait my turn and stay focused before it became my team. You know what I mean? I was just a part of the team. So a lot of time, like I said, Beam pushes athletes through the system. What Beam was fair about was trying to get dudes to college. So if you was a junior and senior and you had potential to get to college, he was gonna keep you on the field, man, if you was a good dude. So if you had that potential, he and you was trying and you was doing what you're supposed to do, Coach Beam was gonna have you on the field. So if it was maybe a sophomore or Roger Ratliff that might have had a couple of better moves than a Joe Cannon or Anthony Limbrick or something, but he knew Roger had another year or another 2 years. So he was going to let Roger shine when it was time for Roger to shine and let us shine when it was our turn, right? Because you don't get your turn often. So I think Bean was good about stretching it out and stretching the talent out and letting the talent shine when it was supposed to and giving them opportunity, especially the kids that were doing what they were supposed to do, staying focused. Because y'all know how hard it was to stay focused in the OAL, going to open schools anyway, man. So
Absolutely.
no,
Man,
Beam had a program up. He had it set up where it was supposed to. Raj had to wait his turn, and when he had his turn, he shined. You know.
crazy thing, man. I almost transferred to Skyline that senior year. That year they went undefeated. I almost transferred. I'm even working out with Skyline in the summer, right?
You
I
remember?
talked Dame.
Uh-huh.
I talked Dame into giving me number two. I'm like, if I come to Skyline, I got to represent C. Lewis, man. That's my, I got Dame. Like,
Yeah,
I give you number
yeah,
two. I'm on my
yeah.
way coming there, but then it was like my conscience got the best of me. It's like, that ain't gonna be respected, Lo. I gotta fight against these dudes, man. I can't leave my brothers behind and jump on a bandwagon. So it's time for me. And I live down the street from Skyline. I'm like literally on 39th. I'm living on 39th.
I know. I
And I'm
remember.
like
Yep, I
literally,
remember Big Bro and all them. Yeah.
I'm on my way, and I'm like, you know what, man? Let me just go on and go back to Tech, man. My little brother at Skyline, my cousins at Skyline, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go back to Tech because that ain't gonna look right. I probably would have had to fight Mikey or something later on in the streets if I ran into Mikey if I left him like that, right? But that team, even in working out, watching them dudes, because being at Skyline was the first time I see people power cleaning and doing hang cleans, right?
Yeah,
Because at Tech
yeah,
we lifted, but all we did was bench press and squat.
And
I didn't
curls.
see hang cleans until I got to and push ups. So I didn't see hang
yeah.
cleans until I got to Skyline. And let me tell you, Raj was hang cleaning and squatting hella much. So when he turned to a running back and I'm at Tech, I'm like, man, we got to try to tackle this fool. He is strong as hell, right? But beyond, I got out of the truth. Mikey met him in a hole. Mikey met him in a hole and won that battle. He won that battle in the hole. But Skyline had a program like you and Art just said, man. But one thing I want to talk about is, man, before we get into you and signing to go to college, man, I asked every guest on here, man, who did you play against in the OEL, man, that you felt was overrated, and who did you play against in the OEL was kind of underrated? It could be somebody that was on your team or somebody you played against. Let's start off with the underrated question. Who you saw or did you played against that was like kind of underrated?
Uh, Let me think about that. Underrated, huh? That's a good question. Because there was a lot of, even at just at Skyline, man, I think it was a lot of players that was really good players, man. Dwayne, you remember Dwayne Taylor? I don't know if you remember
For
Dwayne
Skyline,
Taylor.
yeah.
My senior year,
I remember Dwayne.
he,
I remember Dwayne.
he was one of the best players that I've ever played with, pound for pound, football player, underrated. Um, Another one was the linebacker. I remember, if y'all remember, Pierre Crosby.
I know
I
Remember,
remember
Pierre.
dude, our
Pierre.
middle linebacker, Pierre Crosby?
Yep. Yep.
Pierre was underrated. Pierre was raw. Pierre was raw, and Dwayne Taylor was raw. To be honest, those years that we had, that '97 year, and those years we had that good defense, and those were some marquee players on defense was that held it down was Dwayne Taylor and Pierre Crosby, man. Two underrated players. Dwayne ended up getting a scholarship playing at New Mexico State, I believe, playing linebacker at New Mexico
Right, he did.
State, and Pierre ended up going to Laney, I believe. Pierre went to Laney for a while and went that route. But those are two underrated players that I know I played with. You know who else? I'm gonna keep it real. You know who else was underrated that was raw? C. Lewis, your boy, blood. C. Lou
Man,
was
see,
one of the best football players that I played with as well, man. He knew how to play football and he played football the right way, man. He was a good dude. Yeah.
so see
So
Lewis,
those are some of the
one of
players.
the things with Steve Lewis, man, is like you talked about, man, that staying focused, right? Staying focused was one of his biggest issues because at the same time, we was having a lot of fun around the city, man. Like we going to parties every weekend and all of them things. So see, Lewis kind of got thrown off a little bit, but was able to bounce back. But he had a hard time staying focused, man. So the next question, Bob, who you feel was an overrated player that you had to play against in OAL? Like, dude, this dude overrated.
Somebody asked me that question earlier, man. I had to get politically correct with my answer, man. I I see it like I don't know who's overrated. I give everybody their props, man, and I lay it on the field, low. So if you overrated or underrated, man, I put it on the field. You know what I mean? And after the game, the guy that left it on the field, that's how I rate you, man. So before the game, I might not knew your name, but after the game, I might say, man, you were a good player, and I respect you. So I respect players that put it on the field, low. Wherever the ratings go, they could throw them out the window, man. I respect the players
Right,
that put it on the field, man. I had a bond, and that's why my dogs like me, man. That's why you guys love to play against me and play, because I put it on the field, man. That's what I like to do. I don't talk too much mess. I don't do all that, man. I just play. At the end of the game, respect come, man. Respect earn. So shoot, that's how I look at it, man. So I respect the cats that earn and respect on the field, dog.
Hey, man, you want to know a couple of people that I felt was underrated, like, and he was way better than way 10 times better because he was underrated because we didn't know who he was. When Dante Marsh transferred to McClymonds, I didn't know who Dante Marsh was, right?
Is
Man,
that
but
right?
Dante, dude, didn't know who Dante was. And I'm not even talking about this All American Dante we see that play DB. You should have seen Dante at running back. Hey, at running back, dude, Dante Marsh, when they beat Tech, I was ineligible, but Dante Marsh won the game. He broke a punt return, and then after breaking the punt return, he scored two running back touchdowns. So he had like 130 rushing along
I
with a
remember
punt
that.
return. And then the game changer was Bach, your boy Bach. He got a big hit on Mikey, and the big hit he got on Mikey scared the rest of the Tech team. Nobody wanted to run with Bach no more, man. Like that kind of did it, man, because Mikey was a lion, right? So Mikey was a
I
lion,
can't
and
believe. Beast.
to see Bach hit Mikey, everybody it's like if I want to, I cut the head off the snake, right? Now I got
Right.
everybody else under control, right? And nobody else wanted to go see that. So them two dudes right there, man, was a lot underrated in my eyes because they was a whole lot better than what I expected, And shout out to Dante and Bach, man, that became teammates of yours, man. Let's talk about that for a second, man. Y'all get recruited, y'all all signed in Fresno State. Would y'all have a pack? Like, how did that come about? Like, hey, we all go here, or was it just Pat Hill just
No,
recruiting everybody?
Pat Hill, man, they just had an awesome recruiting team. I think Pat Hill's strategy was it was Pat Hill's first year, and I think that he wanted to build his players, his team around players that really get after it, that's really from there. So I think they took an approach to recruit from the inner city because a lot of players that year that signed with Fresno State came from L.A. inner city and Oakland inner city. So they just recruited hard out there that year, man. And I didn't know that Dante and Vach and then Ramsey Venner. I don't know if you remember where Ramsey played with. He played with y'all at Tech. Remember
My
Ramsey
teammate.
Lowe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my guy.
Ramsey Venner. Ramsey Venner signed that year too. So I think it was four of us that all signed from Oakland to Fresno State that year, man. And that was just by chance. We never talked about it, nothing. Because like you said, I always played against Dante Marsh and Devon Banks and all them. They wasn't my boys. Them was my rivals. So we ain't talk about where we
Right,
was
right,
going. We actually became brothers and developed a brotherhood once we got to Fresno State, man. And it was a big thing, man. We tried to hold it down. At one point we almost had a whole Oakland secondary out there at Fresno. We had
we gonna
Devon
talk
at one
about that.
corner. Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
remember the
yeah,
whole what was it called, the Shut Up and Hit campaign, right? So you
yeah,
guys on
yeah.
ESPN, I
Yeah.
remember
That's right.
ESPN. Y'all
Yeah,
got everybody talking about, man. I think y'all started off y'all first 3 games undefeated. Y'all jumped to like number 10 in the rankings, and
yeah,
ESPN do this story on the secondary. So one thing about Oakland is, man, when we see some people we know making it, we all feel like we made it, right? So to
yeah,
see
yeah,
you, Dante, and Bach on ESPN, and they having this conversation with y'all, and y'all talking about, man, our motto is set up and hit, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
hey, you know what? I'm stealing that, right? I'm stealing that, right? So I'll go back. I'm at Laney at the time, and I'm like, hey, y'all, hey, man, y'all secondary talking trash to me, man. Y'all better shut up and hit somebody, right? So I stole it, right? But shout out to that. I love seeing that Fresno secondary beat all Oakland because sometimes when we know somebody go to a school we might be going to, we be like, hey, you know what? They recruited these 2 guys, so I'm gonna go over here, right? I'm gonna go to San Jose State. I'm not gonna go to Fresno State. They just recruited too many secondary people. But to see all 3 of y'all in that starting lineup, man, was amazing. Being from Oakland, playing against you guys, and then seeing that was like, hey, these guys making noise and they representing because a lot of times we want to leave out of California. We got the big name
Right,
school we want to go to. Be like, hey, you know
right.
what? I'm going to Miami. Even if I don't never play, I want to be at Miami, right? But to see you
Yeah,
guys stay
yeah.
home and made them type of plays was amazing, man. So when you went to Fresno, how did you pick between? I know you got drafted in baseball, so how did you pick to say, you know what? I don't want to go play baseball. I'm gonna go to Fresno State, right? Or were you getting recruited for both sports?
Man, I actually didn't pick between the both either sport. What happened with that was, and that was a big turning point in my life, Lo, and that was a good question because that affected me during my college days, man, and it gave me some issues with that staying focused word again. And I think that if we support each other, like you was talking about, we all like to root for the Oakland boys because we know where we come from. You know what I mean? And we know how hard it is to stay focused and really make it to the next level, no matter what that level looks like, because we all had those influences. I remember, like you were saying, you kicked it with a couple of dudes, and you had a lot of party crew. And I know a lot of guys you was friends with. Y'all like to party and kick it and have a good time. A lot of when we was growing up, the other half was thugging, being on the streets, wanting to thug, sell drugs, and do all this. The other one to pimp and do all this. So we had all these bad negative influences while we was trying to get to practice, and while we was leaving practice, where it would mess with our focus. So we always had to worry about staying focused, and staying focused is one of the biggest things that I preach to the young kids today. So I think that's why we support each other so much coming out of Oakland, man, because um, we could stay focused. But you asked me about coming into playing in that secondary. What you was
Baseball.
asking me, Lo?
No, that the baseball.
Oh
Like, how did
yeah,
you
yeah,
choose
yeah.
baseball over football?
Yeah, so that's what happened, man. So when I came into it, I came into it when I got drafted. I came into it wanting actually to play, being a baseball player. I wanted to play baseball. I got drafted in '97 to Atlanta Braves when they was in the prime of their little run. I think they won a World Series
Right.
or something even that year. So that was a big deal to me. But We had players like I got drafted later on in the round. We had players like Jimmy Rollins in the first round. We had players coming out here in the second round. So it was always in my head that when I got drafted later on in the rounds, and I didn't really know why. But at the same time, I had these football scholarships. So when it was all laid on the table, I went to Fresno because I had the opportunity to play both sports. Fresno State was known for their baseball program as well as their coming into the football program. So when I went to Fresno, I didn't really make a decision. I chose not to go play with the pros because I had the opportunity to go to Fresno and play both sports. So I went to Fresno to play baseball and Fresno football, and I actually did that for the first 2 years. I was a two-sport athlete in college as well. I played baseball and I played football. So I went there. I took the football scholarship with Coach Pat Hill. And then I played baseball on the off season. I played football. It was days where I was doing like Deion Sanders. I was putting on my baseball cleats, playing baseball, and taking off my cleats, going right to football practice. So I did that. It came to the time where the only reason I stopped playing baseball is because I got into the situation where Coach Hill was putting that pressure on me. He said, he called me into the office one day and he said, listen, son, I'm paying your football scholarship. That's why you out here to play football. You my All-American safety. You the leader on the team, captain of your team. We need you to be committed to football. Coach Bennett, Coach Bennett was a big-time baseball coach out there at Fresno State at the time. Put a bunch of cats in the major leagues or whatever. He said, you a big-time, come play baseball with me. You don't even got to play football. We'll get you the scholarship, we'll pay for your schooling, we'll take care of you. But at the time, coming from Oakland, man, I was looking for that security. I knew football had full scholarships, baseball didn't have full scholarships back in the day. So
I'm glad you
Coach Coy, Coach Hill saying, I got full scholarship for you, man. Coach Benny couldn't offer the full scholarship. So at the end of the day, I said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and play football, man. But that's how that story worked out, man. That was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. Because I had a love for both sports. Man. I could have did both sports all the way through. But that's how that story kind of happened, man. After the football, I ended up playing a little bit of baseball, minor leagues after that, trying to get back into it. But that's how that story went, man.
Hey man, we talked highly about your dad earlier in the conversation, man. How was your dad talking to you about making that decision, man? Was he like, hey, you know what, you grown now, it's the decision you got to make, or did he try to help guide you into making that decision?
Your dad went to Fresno State too, though, right?
My dad went to Fresno State too. That's part of why I went there too, as getting recruited.
Oh, really?
Man, my dad told me. Yeah, he let me make the decision, but I kind of wish he would have pushed me a little bit more to go play baseball, and we all know the benefits of baseball versus football. But he told me at that point, I remember him telling me that, man, you got 5-star tool baseball player, you know what I mean? He said he actually was trying to push me to play baseball at that point. I think I made the mistake, or the decision, I should say, to continue to play football, because of all the reasons that you said earlier. It was a popular sport. It was the glamour. It's the accolades. It's the money sport. All these things get you caught up when you're young. But in the long term, baseball is a great sport, man. I wish a lot of more black athletes would choose baseball.
Man, you're
That's how
absolutely
that
right, man.
But to back up a little bit, Lo, my first exposure to Vach, Dante, and TwoBob is when they was in the Alameda County, Contra Costa County All-Star game together. And it was right before the game. I'm reading the paper, and they said, oh, the OAL boys is in practice. And then every time one of them three will make a hit, they'll go, Fresno State. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to Fresno State when I come up. That was my intro to the trio.
Hey, but one of the good things that Pat Hill did as well, because even before they class got there, Fresno State had the B.D. Lockhart, who came from Oakland. And right after they got there, they took a slew of boys in. Like you said, Ramsey Veneer, They had Big Tyson came there.
George
Yeah.
Benson,
Um, George,
Uh, Jamal Jones.
Jamal Jones.
Jamal Jones.
Who
Like they
is now?
had a
You talk
big
about
group.
underrated players. Now you talk about
Jamal Jones.
underrated players. Jamal Jones does not get enough credit.
Nah, he don't. He was a
Oh,
hard hitting runner, linebacker, tough head, man. He was a tough player.
so Fresno State started this connection. Even in track, you had Tim Brown come there from Oakland.
Yep.
McClimb was in track. My pastor Smoke came there in track. You know,
Mo. Yep.
so
Yep.
Fresno started bringing all of these Oakland guys in that I remember and coming out there to a party, a Fresno State step show party, and I come out there. And it's like I felt at home, right? You know, I'm a party guy. I come out there and I see Oakland dudes. That made me feel at home, right? And it was a thing to where I remember being at Laney and playing against Fresno City College and was like, you know what? I want to go to Arizona State, but if Fresno State recruit me, I'm down the street. I'm coming. I remember talking to Maurice Washington, like, hey, bro, if Fresno State come get me, I'm coming there with y'all, man. But they had Fresno brought a good class in, man. But I can understand, you know, I can understand that I'm choosing football, man. Look at what we doing right now, man. I'm gonna choose
That's
football,
what
man.
happened.
So
Yep.
yeah, look at what we doing, man. I brought here. I'm part of the culture change at Fresno.
Yep.
I don't want to step
Yep.
away from that. You know that's a big thing to step away from, man.
Hey, hey, Lo. So a lot of people don't know this either, but and Bob probably don't know this either. So Bob's senior year, Dante's senior year, Vox senior year at Fresno was my freshman year at San Jose. And we and I remember I'm like, man, because I'm idolizing these dudes because they was going out of high school when I got to Oakland High. So I'm like, I kind of just want to go to the game to watch them too. And it just so happened San Jose and Fresno had the same exact record. We played each other the last game of every season, and it was for the very first
The WAC championship?
not the WAC championship because I think TCU won that one because they had LaDainian Tomlinson that year, but it was for the Silicon Valley Bowl. And I was so excited, man. I was so excited to see them play. Our quarterback just stunk up the night. He wasn't ready. I don't know what he was doing the night before, but he just definitely wasn't ready. And they won it. But it was like me being on the opposing team. I was still kind of rooting for Fresno. It's just because of those guys. So like you said, and Tabiti was on that team too. So like you
Yep.
said, it's like even though you on the opposite team, you see all them Oakland dudes. You like, I mean, I would like to win, but like I ain't tripping if we don't, because I still feel like we won.
I know, man. I hear that. I hear that a lot, though, fellas. It's a trip how impactful that year, those years was at Fresno. When I come back home and I talk to guys like you and guys that watched it, Fresno was like one of them schools. It was always a good program, but it wasn't no big time program. But now after I came back and we played, and everybody, like you said, they recruit big time players. They playing big time games. And I think, like y'all was alluding to, man, it started with the culture that we developed up there. It started with that '97 recruiting class. And we recruited all them dogs up there from them inner cities, man, and we developed a culture up there where we left it on the field, man. And it showed. Everybody, a lot of people wanted to play there, man. We had fun playing there. We had a good time, man. I appreciate Fresno State taught me a lot, man. We grew up a lot playing in Coach Matt Hill.
Man. Hey man, so now, can let me get back to your father because I wanted to talk about your father, man. What
Yep.
real influence did you have when you growing up? Because I don't remember your dad coaching you as you got older. I always remember Mr. Limbrick being outside of the gate and he being as humble as can be, and you being as humble as can be. Is that something that was instilled in you at a young age?
Yeah, it was. My dad wasn't a big talker, and he always kind of checked me when I started feeling myself. Um, he was always about getting better, man. So if I had a good game, I come home bragging, "Oh, Dad, I hit a home run on Quinn Elder, whatever." Yeah, but he reminds you, but you struck out. You know what I mean? But you struck out a couple of times on that outside pitch that you could have got to. Or if I had a big time football game in a couple of big plays, he would remind me about, oh, how you missed that tackle in the hole, or how you didn't break down on that tackle, or how you let that boy beat you on that out. So he was always preparing me to be better. So he never let me be complacent and settle with just being or getting a big head thinking I already arrived. So Pops always kept me wanting to get better. You know what I mean? He always kept an edge over me, like I ain't good enough, or all right, I'll show you I could be better. And sometimes you could do that with players and young men, sometimes you can't. I was fortunate, I was one of them ones that kind of triggered me to show you, man. I wanted to, okay, I can show you I could do it, you know? So I always wanted to compete, man. So that's what I could say my dad really contributed to me, man, getting better, man. He always pushed me to get better, man. Do the extra work. You know what I mean? You got to work when the other dudes ain't working. You better be doing something to make yourself better, you know, and stay focused. Pops also helped me stay focused. Like I said, it was a lot of negative influences out there, even with fathers. I hear some of you guys talk on your podcast talk about guys that even had fathers and fathers that was in their lives, and they still got caught up in some, you know, caught up in the street life or whatever, you know. We all had those influences. You, Ken, you, Lo, I know you did. I watched you, you know what I mean? And it was I just appreciate my dad still being there, taking me to practice. You know what I mean? Picking up players, taking them to practice. I remember my dad used to pick up T-Tone, Mikey, even Marvell Smith and them dudes like that, taking them to practice, dropping them off. So I seen the commitment, coaching other players, coaching other kids' sons. So I looked up to the commitment that my dad gave to putting up to you. So I never wanted to let him down, man. And that was instilled into me, and that's kind of like part of my little culture, man. That's what we do, and like you guys, man, it is what it is. So I try to pass it on to my kids, you know.
Yeah, I remember your dad had that Bronco. He used to drive that Bronco.
Remember?
The Bronco.
Deep. Remember we used to be deep in that trip, picking up everybody. You remember Ken?
Yeah, I remember. Come on, you know me and Mr. Limbrick go way back low. Mr. Limbrick,
Yep.
or Coach Limbrick, as I call him, was my T-ball coach. So my introduction to Babe Ruth was Coach Limbrick. And but that's the difference between coach and dad, Lo. And you always talk about that too. How TwoBob was talking about his dad never let him get too big head or whatever. All my memories with Coach Limbrick was like just super positive. So I got Coach Limbrick. TwoBob had Dad Limbrick. You know what I'm saying? So he was always encouraging to me, Ken, I see you out there. You're doing good, man. Just keep going. Get your swings in. Or when I was playing football, hoops, same thing. And even when I see him today, you know, and he knows everybody, and he still remember everybody's name. He know what team you played for. I'm like, how you, man? I'm half your age. I still can't remember all this. Like, he remember everybody's face, name, stats, team, and man, he's everywhere. You'll see him reffing basketball, then you see him running the flag football league, and then, man, I'm like, dude, man, that's impressive.
My dad, local legend, man. Like I said, that dude, he had so much influence on everybody and a lot of players' lives. He touched so many people, man. And I appreciate him being able to, like I said, share himself with other players, you know, like players that didn't have fathers or players that didn't have some of the opportunities that I had, man. You know, actually, I was blessed. So, like I said, being that and having those influence, I recognize the difference of players that didn't have fathers or people that didn't have some of the things that I was blessed with. So I always tried to make sure that I recognize that even growing up, man, you know, I recognize that I had a dad. Maybe this dude didn't have a dad, you know. So I always make sure I treated people with that type of that camaraderie, man, and that respect, and develop a lot of brotherhood. That's why I develop a lot of brotherhood with these players and players that come from the streets and anywhere, man. I learned that from my dad, man. Always giving back, helping out, man. You know.
Hey,
so I appreciate it.
One thing you said about brotherhood, man, it makes a lot of sense, because even today I'm seeing pictures on social media of you and your wife, and y'all taking trips with Joe Cannon and his wife and Leon and them, man. Like, did Skyline create this brotherhood thing in y'all to, like, we gonna be brothers for life because we from Skyline Titans type thing?
Titan pride.
Heck yeah, Lo. You know, growing up in Oakland, me and them dudes, not only y'all been there. Not only did we play football together, but outside that we kicked it. We survived Oakland together. So that developed that brotherhood. Once we walked out them doors from our mom and dad house, That was my family. Joe Cannon, Leon, and them dudes, that was our family. That's how we survived Oakland. That's how we survived through the hood. We made sure we looked out for each other. We got to practice. We had fun together. We hung out at school together, and we hung out at home together. You know, uh, I'm fortunate to have some dudes like that in my life, man. You know, appreciate them days.
But y'all don't know how.
And
I mean,
yeah,
man,
yeah,
like
everybody you play football with, you end up bonding with, man.
I was
After
just
them
about to
double
say.
days, and after going to war on them fields, man, you looking at your teammate like, man, somebody got to make a play, and your boy come through for you. You already know.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
all my
right,
closest partners is former football teammates.
You already know.
right, right. Hey, Bob. So one of the things Art Young said in his episode that Skyline had this rep of, man, when we come outside of the Skyline, we get looked at these pretty boy rich kids, man. And a lot of people thought because y'all was on this field that y'all had it all made out for y'all, right? This, like y'all some pretty boys. So our mentality was, man, you know what? I'm proving I'm not a pretty boy. I'm proving I'm not like everybody else. So I'm gonna go out and cause as much trouble as possible, right? When I get out this thing, man. But one of the things is, man, y'all had that stigma, but y'all didn't act like that, man. Like it took people to have to know y'all, right? So me being at Tech, I knew y'all. I knew y'all because I grew up with y'all, right? And I'd be like, hey, man, they ain't how y'all think, man. It's like you said, one might got a daddy, but the other five don't. You know what I'm saying? But we look at it as if like, hey man, this kid is in this area, they afforded this is what they got, everybody the same. And one of the things that Skyline did for all of you guys, man, y'all culture was set at y'all team where everybody was different, but we came as a melting pot and made it work, right? Because it was some dudes on my team, and we'd be at football practice at Tech that we probably playing together, but outside of the field, I don't like you. Like I really
Right,
didn't like some. I didn't like some of my teammates, and it
right,
showed, right? So when I remember one time when everybody going to work out and going to go run at Cal, me and my partners like we ain't doing this. We going to go run at the lake, right? Because
right.
we didn't have that unity, right? We like, man, we ain't doing that, man. But our focus was that's why we didn't win no championship. We were too divided, man. So Beam made a great culture for y'all, man. How was it with Beam, man? Because everybody got a different story about how Beam was to them. How was it with Beam and you?
Beam does have different experiences with different players, and I watched that personally. I seen that with my own eyes. I seen some players do good with Beam. Then I seen some players get their whole little ego crush dealing with Beam. I think Beam was a good influence to us young black men in the community that we came from all together because he kept us accountable. Beam kept us with a sense of discipline outside of home. I think he understood some of the obstacles and things that we were facing in the streets, like you were saying, some of those negative influences, and what made it hard for some kids to stay focused versus other kids. And I think Beam did take all that in accountability, and that's why I kind of respected Beam. But Beam was hard, man. Beam was one of them dudes that um, you had to show up, man, and you had to show up and give 100% every time, or he gonna on your tail. And if you couldn't handle somebody being on you and putting that pressure on you, then you was gonna break, or you was gonna look for the easier way out, or you just didn't want to deal with it. So some players come up there playing with Beam, like you was talking about those dynamite players and all these superstars that was coming from these other areas. If you came there as a superstar with Beam, you really had to kind of like start over and prove yourself and lay it down on the field, man. And if you didn't, you wasn't playing. So a lot of players got their egos crushed because they didn't see the field, man. They didn't get the respect that they thought they deserved, and it showed. Also, another thing being kept you accountable for was your grades. We had tutoring. He checked your grades. So if you was messing up in school, man, you wasn't gonna play. You know. So that's just what it was with being in. The dudes that stayed accountable and did what they supposed to do and came put it on the line every day, they was gonna play. We spent a lot of time with each other. Being set up the culture in the summertime, we used to be up there all day. lifting weights, working out, playing passing leagues. So we used to be way up on that hill. So we didn't have no choice. Low, y'all was at Tech, Fremont, all these other inner city schools, man. Y'all had the bus system right there. Y'all could get up out of there and be in the town. We was up on that hill. So once you get up on that hill, that's all we had. We was stuck on that hill unless you had a car. And so we stayed up there and practiced all day and developed that bond, man. I think that's what it was. Beam had that little program up there. He'd keep us up there spending a lot of time with each other, man. We spent a lot of time on that hill together, practicing and lifting those weights like you were saying. And I think that was kind of the thing that kind of developed our bond a little bit more than some of the other schools. You know, we didn't have the opportunity to get on the bus and or the, you know, the strip or the main traffic right in front. We was way up on that hill. So once you on that hill, man, all we had was focus. All we had was each other. All we had was beam. It wasn't no easy way out. So either you did or you didn't. That's
Right,
how it was.
right. Hey, I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Me and Ken created this list. We had a the top 10 list, Ken? Top 10
Top
list of
10
running backs,
backs.
right? Top 10 running back list. And it was from 96 to probably 2004, Ken.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't that. It was 96 to 04, right?
Yep.
And we had, and it's a debatable list, right? And one of the things on the debatable list was we realized De La Salle could have had a lot more running backs on the list that we left off, right? Like, I don't even think we put Leon Collin on the list.
Leon,
that was a mistake.
We didn't put Celine.
Y'all had Leon Collin on the list?
No, we revised it. We revised it after we talked to Atari. But
So
originally,
we didn't have Leon on the list. We didn't even have Celine. We didn't have Celine
Terrence
McCullough.
Kelly.
No, we didn't have a few of them on the list. But you played against that 97 team. You played against De La Salle, and then you played against some other great running backs and stuff like that, man. Who was one of the toughest running backs y'all played against when you was at Skyline?
I got a sleeper for y'all. It might not be a sleeper because y'all know y'all stuff, but I got one for you. Do y'all remember Charles Stark?
Oh no, he got me on that one.
Yeah. Y'all gotta look
from where?
Charles Stark from St. Francis. One of the hardest running backs I ever played against. Look him up. I sent you the video.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he in that game that you sent me?
That's why I sent it to you, because I knew this question was gonna come up. Charles Stark. Charles Stark from St. Francis. I sent you that 97 game. Charles Stark was underrated. I forgot about him. One of the most underrated players that I played against, bro. He was hard, though. I hated tackling him, you know, and we was hard. We liked to hit. I hated tackling him. Fourth quarter, he coming through the ice, like, damn, I'm about to chop this fool.
Compare him. Here go another name because y'all lost to Logan. Here's another name.
Oh, Jackie Crooks.
People keep sleeping on. People like, who is that? I'm like, man, look, he's on the list. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
Jackie Crooks. So Charles Stark was one of them hard running backs where he had strong, powerful legs. He'd hit you in the hole, and he just wear on you. And he had breakaways and cuts too. Jackie Crooks, you couldn't even touch Jackie Crooks.
That's what Atari said. Remember Low? Atari said he did two spin moves on one leg.
I was one of the victims plenty of times. We played Logan every year. And Jackie Crooks was a hard back to tackle. It wasn't that he was powerful, he just had eyes. He had eyes, man. He could see. He see the move. He already setting up his move. And he not moving hella fast. He not like the fastest running back. You know, like Atari and them was fast. Atari had fast feet. You know what I mean? The Callan brothers was quick. But Jackie just knew how to cut, man, and knew how to move. He was a killer. Man, people sleep on Jackie Crooks. Jackie Crooks ended up going to
Rutgers.
He's playing ball in Rutgers, yeah. He had a good career.
That was before they was coming to get us from the East Coast and the Midwest and stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, man, to come
East Coast didn't recruit back then. They got Jackie.
Yeah, wasn't no YouTube and all that. So
exactly. He had a good career out there in Rutgers. Yeah. He did cool.
We also had Ken Simonton on the list. Remember Ken Simonton?
Ken Simonton, Pittsburgh High.
Pittsburgh High.
Ken Simonton was actually one of my rivals playing in college too at Oregon State. You know, he was raw at Oregon State. We played him 2 years in a row. Ken Simonton, they had Chad Ochocinco and it had Hoosh Manzada one year. And I was playing in the second year.
Championship.
I was playing against that offensive powerhouse they had. You feel me? So that was that was I'm team raw blood. You right. George Jordan.
George Jordan. Where
Pittsburgh High. George Jordan. Pittsburgh High. He was the one. I remember y'all was talking to De La Salle. He was the one. I think it was Leon Callan. Y'all got to look this up. It was in 96, they senior year. Leon Callan get a sweep. Pittsburgh High versus De La Salle. Leon Callan get a sweep. George Jordan come off a linebacker, knocked his helmet off. Y'all remember that play? The ball flew off, the helmet flew off, and they both was knocked out on the field.
Nah, that sounds
the biggest hit I ever seen. That was one of the biggest hits I ever seen in high school football, bro. Pittsburgh High, George Jordan, when he hit Leon Callan from De La Salle on that pitch outside. He did a little toss outside, and he didn't have nobody in front of him. He looked up, caught the ball, and they both was laid out, knocked out on the field, bro.
Let me ask you a question. So you played at Skyline when Skyline was a powerhouse in the Bay Area, period. And then y'all played De La Salle. What to you as a player on the field, what was the difference between the two teams?
Between De La Salle and Skyline?
Yeah. Because Skyline was a powerhouse to us. We looking at Skyline like, damn, blood, like ain't nobody going. And then De La, so like what was the difference between that?
Man, I can remember just the name De La and looking at them silver uniforms and that silver helmet just used to intimidate people, to be honest. I think that was the first thing, because we used to go into that game. When we played them, man, half of my team, even though we had hogs, y'all know we had dogs, the dogs, we was ready to go. But the team is only good as all its players, man. Half of our team was intimidated just by the name and that silver coat on their jerseys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it, we was defeated before we even hit the field, bro. De La Salle, y'all playing De La Salle. Y'all playing De La Salle. I told y'all how I think, man. I don't care. Lay it on the field. I don't even know who we playing. I don't even care who we playing. You feel me? I'm going to play just like I play 100% against whoever we playing. And I wish our other teammates looked at it that way. I think a lot of teams go into it just be kind of intimidated just by the name and the colors, you know, and the prestige and the history behind it, more so than just getting beat up on the field.
Hey, well, let me tell you something. That's how it was for us playing against Skyline. All our teammates was scared before the game started. We see the red and black. We get up on the hill. We see the names. We defeat.
That's all it is.
Right. Hey, but you know what? I think the mentality going to play De La Salle is similar to getting ready to play Skyline. You thinking, hey man, Skyline, they on the hill, they on the pretty boy shit. We gonna talk some shit, and then you talking, and then you get drove off the line or you get smacked, and you be like, hey, this is more real. This is realer than what I think, right? So you go in that mindset like, hey, this is De La Salle, they private school. Even the ones that's ready, and you get on the field and you might realize, hold on, did this guard just chop him, then turn around and take the linebacker to the sideline? You like, oh, we in a dogfight. We had this all wrong, man. But you're right. Everybody got to come in with that mentality, like, I'm not going to get starstruck by the limelight of who these people is, right? And I think once you do that, you beat off top, right? And a team like De La Salle and a team like Coach Beam feeds on that, right? I remember your senior year, y'all had this play where you had receiver, and it's like y'all line up in a trip formation, and you just do a bubble fade all the time. And, and I'm like, hey, they just ran this play 3 times in a row. If anybody gonna stop this play, it's like it's simple, and it's like nobody's stopping it, and Beam just feeds off of it, right? He gonna keep running it, and I think that's what a lot of teams do. They figure out what's working against us, you know, and not only are we starstruck, they running the same play that we ain't even peeped up on, right? So that was a great thing, man. So the difference, I would say, between them two teams when y'all playing against a team that's not like that was coaching. Like, it wasn't adjustments being made, right? So one of the things we didn't do is make adjustments. We played a lot of athletic ability and not, hey, you know what, I'm going to go watch this film and I peep. Okay, they deal with this, everything, right? So playing off athletic ability and playing against coaching is the big difference,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm out coach you, then you ain't gonna never beat me. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how it is. I remember Skyline senior year, we was really up on Skyline. The only team that went up on it, we was up 18-6. We lost
Y'all was
43 to
good.
18.
Tech was good, man. Y'all should have won more than y'all really did, but y'all had squad. To be honest,
We
y'all had
we we
squad.
had
I
we
remember
had we had we had athletes,
y'all
right? We
did.
had a whole bunch of
did.
athletes, but we were out of position a little bit, or we thought we was going to go play off our athletic ability. You know what I'm saying? Or we thought we was going to ride Mikey to the promised land. We go give Mikey the ball 95 times. He go score. If you score 4 touchdowns, Mike, we good. And a team like Skyline would stop it, and we wouldn't be able to do anything. But we was up 18-6 and never scored again. And it's because we didn't make no more adjustments.
Hey, man, I
We,
think, guys, I want to tell you guys, man, I think this is dope. First of all, what you're doing, and I've been saying that from the beginning when I first seen your first podcast with my boy Levy. But I think it's dope, man, and I think you guys are hella knowledgeable, man. How y'all remember all this stuff? I'm sitting here like, damn, Lolo and Ken remember everything, man.
hey,
How y'all
hey,
remember all
hey,
this stuff? All these
hey,
names,
hey.
all these a lot of talent out there.
Oh man, Oakland is real talent rich, man. I'm like we really
Yep,
rich in talent, and we so rich in talent that you name 20 people that didn't make the league in baseball that had the potential to.
for real.
Omari Murphy was a dog in baseball and football, man.
He was.
His little brother Devin was a dog, man. You got
He
them
was.
T-Tones and Mikey. So we so rich in talent that is one thing that we kept up with. You know what I'm saying? That we followed as it went along, man, to see it because we felt like in Oakland, even our All-Star days, like even when we lost in All-Stars, we didn't lose because we didn't have the talent, right? It was the thing like Atari Callan mentioned. It's like we only saw 2 pitches in Oakland Bay Roof. I saw a fastball and a curve. Now I'm going to go
Right.
play San Carlos at Roner Park, and they throwing sliders
Right.
and knuckleballs,
Right.
right? My 15-year-old All-Star team, we lost in Sacramento, and if I was to tell you guys that was on that team, you like, how did y'all lose? I'm talking about Travis Taylor, Tavaro McIntyre, me,
Wow.
Pac-Man, Cam
Yeah.
Alexander,
Flavor
Larry
Pac, man.
Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all these dudes on this team, but we were like in our area, we threw 2 pitches. It was a fastball. Keon Davis, Keon was on that team,
Uh,
and if
Keon was
we
raw.
threw, man, Keon on that team, and Keon was like, dude, it was on, but we couldn't hit sliders and knuckleballs. So a team threw us all curves, all sliders and knuckleballs, right? But we were so
Right.
talented. Oakland has so much talent, and one of the things, me still being around Bay Roof to see what that turned into is heartbreaking, man, because we thought we had it back, man. Your dad can test this, Bob, and your sister can as well, right? They on a team called the Giants, right? Your brother-in-law, he coaching, they got the Giants, and I'm on this team, the Monarchs, right? And we had this rival against the Giants to where I'm thinking it's 88. I'm thinking it's 89 the way these games is. I'm in there going crazy, right? I'm like throwing my hat. I'm ready to rush the umpire like it's 88, right? And your dad said to me, your dad said, "Low, this is a kids game." I'm like, you right, right? I'm like, you right, right? But like we just still had this competitive nature, and I be telling my son all the time, like, dude, if you can see what baseball was like back then, it was a true escape from everything we had to deal with. I'm talking
Yes.
about. I remember being at Greenman, and the shootout happened in the village, and
Remember?
somebody run
Hmm.
across Greenman. You know what we did? We literally, it's crazy now that I think about it because we normalized that behavior because once they ran through, we didn't stop playing. Like we just played
Right.
it like
I
it was
was there. I
normal,
remember
right?
that.
So, so we normalized that behavior,
Yeah.
but I tell my son this all the time. It's not what you see now. Bay Roof was the heart of Oakland because it's
It
where you knew
was.
people from as you
It
got
was.
older, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like I didn't know Bob from Skyline and football. I knew TwoBob from Oakland Bay Roof,
Oakland Bay Roof.
and,
Yep.
and that was the nucleus to Oakland back then, man. I tell my son all
Yeah.
the time, your era missed out on what brought Oakland together and brought a lot of
Yeah.
kids together because
Yeah.
like them was your brothers. Them was your brothers. So it's like even seeing them at 30, 40 years old, it's like, hey, dude, remember when we was 9 and we had to do this? So
Remember?
we didn't forget
Yep.
that stuff, right? So it's like
Yep.
I can still remember me having to throw TwoBob a whole bunch of curveballs because I was scared because if you get hit out, you might as well not make
It's
All
like
Star
getting
that
dunked
year.
on. It's like getting
It's
dunked
like
on.
getting dunked on. You
Yeah.
don't lay that down, right? So man, that's one of the great things that we kept up with because a lot of us got our start in Oakland Bay Roof, and we just
We
followed.
did.
Even though we branched out to different sports, our nucleus was Oakland, man, and we used to be
It
surprised
was.
how athletic everybody was because as many people that could have
Talent.
went to the pros in baseball is the same amount of people that could have went to the pros in football,
Yeah.
right? So
I
Oakland was
agree.
just so rich with talent, man, and we think about the younger generation that came after us. Your brother Daniel and them generation, they had some dogs in D generation too.
We was talking about
They
that.
did.
But the
They
way they had
did.
the way
We was
they
just
had it
talking about
set,
that.
yeah, the way they had it set up at Greenman was genius. So first of all, it was set up just like Major League Baseball. So you had organizations. So from
Yeah.
T-ball, you take the same guys, you go play minors. You go take the same guys from mine. So it was like you really moving up the ranks. Y'all done played together so long, like you said, it's a brotherhood. We go, you know what I'm saying? We got a Saturday morning game at 10. Friday night, it's probably 6 people sleeping over at one house.
Yep.
We playing,
Yep.
Nintendo back then, or shit back then we
Yep.
go outside and play. You know what I'm saying? And then we all ride to the game with the coach on Saturday
Yep.
morning. So it was like a real brotherhood. And then Greenman, you can't really explain the energy for somebody to understand it. Like parents with the Clorox bottles, and they all,
Remember that?
each team had their own chant. And then you didn't even just go to your game and then go home. You go to your game, you go get some chili cheese nachos, then you go play dome for about 5 hours. Then you go
Yeah.
watch the prep because the prep start later in the afternoon. So then you go watch the prep game. It was like an all day affair.
It was all
Man,
days fair. It was an experience, man.
An
We used to be down
experience
there every weekend, all day. And
all
like you
day.
said, it was our Oakland melting pot
Yeah.
for our community, man, for our youth, for our young men, and that's how it was. But the unfortunate thing, man, you talked about all the talent we had, and I talk about this with the youth, and I talk about this with my wife and them. It was troubling how you use the word normalize, how we normalize what we grew up through.
Yeah.
A lot of those teams that we played against that we lost outside of Oakland and the All Star and different things like that in different communities, those young players at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 didn't have to grow up in the inner city where right across the street they having shootouts and somebody just died, a dead body.
Literally.
I can remember yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember being on the field playing in Beirut in the middle. I'm in the outfield. I think I was in center field, and and we all had to lay on the ground, and I had to literally crawl back to the damn dugout. You know what I mean, from the outfield, literally. And then it calmed down a little bit, and we back playing. You know, so it was a hard time, and it wasn't normal. Nothing normal about the times we grew up in outside of playing our sports and doing what we do. Because if we didn't have those negative influence, man, I believe truly that a lot more of us would have probably made it to the league. But we just got off focus, man. It was too many distractions for a young man at that age coming out of the inner city of Oakland. Baseball started being like secondary to a cat that cousin just got shot,
Right.
or a cat that go home and they selling drugs in front of their house and doing all kinds and he had to survive that. That was kind of secondary, after we start getting older, we start hitting 13, 14, 15s and wonder what happened to all that talent that when we was young, what happened to them dudes that we was 10, 9, 10, 11, 12 that was raw, that's supposed to be making it, you know what I mean? As As you move up the scale, they start falling off because there's be more negative influence. Man, them cats, Arthur Young talk about it. You go to jail. You get caught up with this. You get caught up with your homies from the street to our music and want to sell drugs. And we might not be drug dealers. When we used to have to fight. You fighting from the neighborhoods. You got to defend yourself. Some cats carrying guns to school. All kind of stuff start happening where we lost a lot of talent. And a lot of kids that came up through Baton Rouge didn't even play in high school. We had so many players that should have been playing in high school that didn't even play. I mean, even had an opportunity to play in high school. Right. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it was too many negative influences, man. So I always want to preach focus because it was nothing normal about the times that we went through and times that we survived, So.
Absolutely, man. One of the things that you said, though, man, is when we don't have that focus and stuff like that, it's even more easier to get thrown off, right? I remember myself, man. I got to Tech, and it was so different from being in East Oakland school. You know what I'm saying? Like I was going to school in East Oakland, then I go to Tech. That was so different, and it's off. Right. It's off campus, right?
Off campus, downtown, right.
I don't even got to cut school to leave. I got permission to leave school, right? And sometimes we got to understand, as I'm a football coach right now, I always tell parents about make sure the environment fits your kid, not your kid fitting that school. The school and the environment got to be a fit for your kid because every kid not need to be at a really big school. Some of them need to be at a small school, or some of them want to go to a De La Salle. But you can't, it's hard to make it at De La Salle when you've been in the inner city forever. Atari Collins spoke on that itself, right? So you got to make sure that the environment is working both ways, man, to where your kid don't lose that focus, man. Because I tell all the time, and I tell a lot of kids all the time too, man, you don't want to be that kid that a youth all-star, all-American that don't play high school for whatever reason. It could be your grades. It could be your attitude because you might run against me. I try to prepare them. I might be a Coach Beam in high school, and your attitude ain't going to let you play for me. So you wasting a year by even being here, right? So we try to tell these kids these different things, but your environment that you bring these kids into got to fit for the kid. And I think we didn't understand that. Our parents didn't understand that, right? Because I should have never been at a Tech. Tech was too free for me, right? It was too free. And my house is on the other side of Oakland. So I'm not even gonna get caught cutting. Nobody's gonna see me cutting class right now, right? As opposed to being on the hill and being stuck. I would have just had to deal with maybe I might get caught doing this, but I can't get off this hill. Right. So I don't think we understood all of the components that we do now, right? As we do with our children now. Bob, you spoke on a lot of things you do with speaking to kids and stuff like that, man. What do you got going on now with children-wise, coaching, training? Are you just got a programs you running? What you got going on now?
Man, this last year I kind of took a hiatus from coaching. I've been coaching my kids, man, since they started playing with balls, since 4 or 5 years old. I was coaching all the way through Parson Rex and all that. My oldest is 13 now. And as of last year, I stopped coaching them personally and I started putting them in programs where they could get coached and get some of the teaching because I didn't want to be that dad that always been that dad coach and been that influence and they never received coaching or never received it from nobody else and they don't know how to receive it from nobody else. Or I didn't want to get to that point where they started blocking me out because they always hear me. You know what I mean? They always hear me. So it become, like you say, normalized and they just, whatever, dad. So as of this year, I've been putting my kids, they play basketball. So I've been keeping them competitive in this AAU basketball circuits, man. So they keep me busy. And I'm enjoying going to the games, being able to watch, man, to be honest. I'm having a good time going to the games, being a parent, and sit there with my wife and eat our little snacks on the sideline and cheer for my little ones, man, and talk mess. So right now I'm enjoying watching and being a dad, dude.
Yeah. Amazing, man. one of the things I'm thinking about as you were saying that, like you sitting in the stands and it's a dad next to you that don't understand who he's sitting next to, that knows all of this stuff about football, baseball, and these sports, man. Because I stopped coaching my son in basketball, and I don't coach him in baseball. So I only do football because I don't want that all year round where I'm yelling all year round at you, right? So at the end of the day, we gotta keep our father-son relationship, and I don't want that to be an all-year thing. I gotta be a dad. So during football, because in football, I'm pushing you because it's a sport that you gotta be pushed in. So in football, you getting the coach out of me. You're not even getting the dad really out of me. But all the other seasons, I'm sitting back in the stands and I'm just chilling. And I'm not even I don't even talk about the sport with them when we leave. Like when we leave, we having a father-son conversation. Yo, coach, you got anything, you got a question, that's different. But I'm not going to sit here and say you didn't make a mistake. I'm not critiquing it. That's what your coach is doing that sport. But if I see it, then I know what we need to work on without even telling him what we doing, right? Let's go work. Okay, I see what it was. Okay, your batting stance was off. We're going to work on this, but I'm not coaching you about that. I'm not critiquing you. In basketball, I see that you're a little lazier than what you're supposed to be. Okay, cool. Let's go play one-on-one double court, right? So now you got to run. If you playing against your dad one-on-one double court, you want to beat me, so you're going super hard. And I try to do psychological things to where I'm not the coach all year round because I want to always have that relationship with my dad, man. Well, I mean, with my son. So I think that's one of the good things. But I'm thinking like you and myself, I be sitting in the stands, I be looking like, hey, man, these kids just don't know. I played in an era where, man, you wouldn't have made it, man. You wouldn't have made I'm telling my son, like, hey, dude, you wouldn't have made it on the teams I played on. Straight up. And I think we don't have no conversations enough, man. When Ken a coach as well, man, and Ken can talk about how it is coaching basketball and playing it from his coaching era, but then playing it with the dogs he played with. And these kids don't understand the history of that.
That's something I go through all the time, even with especially with my own kids. Watching them in the house playing this damn video games right now, man, instead of being outside getting after it, And the difference between that and this era, we should play all the time. It wasn't just about organized and being in the gyms or being with the coach. Man, we love to play. We was outside shooting basketball, playing strikeout, playing football in the street all the time is what we did. So when I see these kids right now, and a lot of times we look at each other, I got a couple of other homeboys that I grew up with that's out here, and we played ball together, Morris Henson and them. And we look at these kids and be like, man, they soft. They soft because they wouldn't have, of course they wouldn't have made it in our area. They didn't have to go through what we had to go through. We making them soft, man. We take them to practice, we pick them up, we feed them they snacks, we buying them their shoes, they tying them on and everything. Well, we had to earn it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Even with my dad, my dad didn't buy me. I don't remember getting nothing new. I don't remember ever getting a new glove or nothing like that.
Man, we would find gloves.
If your name ain't find gloves at the park and give it to me. Like, man, this glove already broke in, son. So I think just the fact that they didn't grow up, and I'm looking at these kids, and like I said, it's 90% of it is probably our fault because we trying to give them a better lifestyle than what we had, right?
Yes, it is.
So we allow them. So do that too, Lo, all the time, man.
Yeah, me and Lo was just talking about that offline yesterday. I said,
right,
and then I got 4 girls, so I'm extra.
I heard they was raw though. I heard they was raw, so you doing something right.
That's God, brother. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
When I a couple of weeks ago, that was a while ago now, and I was talking to Ken on the phone. I told my dad that was Ken. My dad couldn't stop talking about Ken's daughter, man. Talking about Ken got a raw daughter, boy, like she had a chance to make it to the NFL or something, man.
Hey, if they had a flag version, I would definitely say she has a chance.
Listen, man, I go to train my son. At Piedmont High School, and every time I go to work out at Piedmont High School with my son, I see Ken's daughter and her mom track training, right? And one of the good things, and she's putting in that work. I'm talking about she really getting after it, man. So I'm like, hey, Prince, man, go run some 200s with her, man. Like that. There's a couple things. One, Dad, I don't feel like sprinting the 200. And Dad, too, if she beat me, if she beat me, I can't live that down. And then Ken's daughter was transferring to my son's school at the time. And I'm like, hey, dude, yeah, she
No.
like that, dude. I'm like, hey, Prince, she might come and be the fastest in y'all class. She gonna come be the fastest in y'all class, right? But my son, he know the psychological game. He like, hey, Dad, I don't care about that because I'm not about to lose to her to prove it. Like, no, she's not about to beat
Right.
me because I'm not about to race her. But
Right.
Ken daughters get after it, man. And what me and Ken was talking about offline, like you said, I said this generation, we were raised to survive the era that we was in, and right now we're raising our kids to empower them so they can be thriving in the future. Two different eras. One is survival. The other one is being raised to thrive. Like
Wow.
two different concepts, man. And that's a good thing that we all doing as fathers with our kids. Even we might say we making them soft, but we also empowering them, right? We also
Yeah,
empowering them. So
absolutely.
that's a great thing, man. And that comes to a test. And I say this every episode, that comes to a test to great guys like Yo Father, Ken Father, and all of these other coaches that we had around us, man. Like Coach Beam, even though he had his ways with different people, it taught us how to be a man and how to help be accountable and integrity. When I
He did.
when I got to when I got to Laney College, Coach Peters at Laney, dude, that was the first time I would had to hold myself accountable. It's like, hey, if I catch you in the courtyard before 12 o'clock, you run it. You need to be in the library, and I do library checks. So I knew when I had a class break, I knew to be in the library because it was someone holding me accountable, right? And that would take us to being men, right? So the Yo dads, Ken dads, our coaches, Dean, Coach Peters, man, they made us be men because we had to have accountability. It was if we
Yeah.
couldn't point the finger no more at someone else. It was like, nah, you messed up. It was on you, and that's a
Right.
great thing, man. Definitely a great thing, you know. And I think every guy or every kid needs that type of experience, that type of coach, a Coach Beam or a Coach Peters, right? Hey Bob, man, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Great
Absolutely.
episode. I seen some guys at Juneteenth, and they was like, "Hey, Lo, man, my thing is this, man. You and Ken sound like y'all skyline biased, man. Y'all like like they like, man, y'all not putting Skyline, y'all not have no Skyline players in y'all basketball rankings. Y'all didn't have that many on
You
y'all
hold some
football
grudges,
rankings.
Lo? Y'all holding some grudges?
No, no,
Football wise,
man.
maybe. Football wise, maybe.
Hey, I'm like, man, no. I said, you know what, Ken? Ken say, Lo, who you want to get next? I said, we need somebody from Skyline. Call TwoBob. We need TwoBob on because I wanted to, one, not make it look like we got a grudge against Skyline, and then two, man, to hear that story because I wanted to know how did you make the choice from baseball to football and all of those things because I remember when Mikey senior year, it was a lot of football schools didn't recruit Mikey because they thought he was going to choose baseball,
Yep.
and
That's what
then
happened. Yep.
and then he went low. He went late in the baseball rounds because baseball teams thought he was going to choose football. So Mikey
Lo,
recruiting was all messed up.
you're so sharp, Lo. It's funny that you say that because that's the exact same thing that happened to me. And I didn't learn that in my sophomore year when I was at Fresno State. Um, the recruiter from the Chicago Cubs, I think he was with another team at that time. He was at Fresno watching the baseball game, and he pulled me to the side and we talked. And he said, "Man, the only reason why you went so late in the '97 draft is because we thought that you were going to be a football player and that we didn't want to waste a draft pick on picking somebody higher and you go play football anyway." And that's the same thing that probably happened to Mikey, man. You know? So I recognize that, man. I lived through that for sure. That's what they do,
Yeah, man.
man.
Hey
Yeah.
Bob, but
Focus.
before we close out, man, I need you to say some words, man, for the kids, man, before you sign out.
Man, I want to say the word kept coming out more and more during our conversations, man, and you just alluded to it at the end here. It's focus, man. If I could say anything to the generations that's coming up right now, is stay focused and put your time into something that you love, but stay focused, man. Don't let the outside distractions throw you off from your future, because, like you said before, it doesn't last long. Your window of opportunity, if you want to play sports, doesn't last long. But in life, general, man, if you want something, you got to go ahead and get after it and stay focused. Don't let anything get you off your focus, man. You're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have down times. Every day is not going to be a great time. Every day is not going to be the superstar. But you're going to win if you get up every day and stay after it, man. Stay focused. That's it.
Hey, man, thanks a lot for coming on, Bob, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate it,
fellas.
man.
Appreciate you.
Hey, man.
Yep.
Hey, man, make sure your dad, man, hear this episode, man, because
I will,
what
for
me and
sure.
Ken try to do, me and Ken try to bring, we gonna bring Coach Mo on from McClimates, man.
Oh, yeah.
Old Coach
Yeah.
Mo and Coach Mo and your dad, all of them got them relationships, man. So we even trying to
Yep.
bring not just your generation, we trying to go even further back, man, so that so even us, that we could be students of what someone else older than us have done, man. So let your dad hear the episode. We'll definitely let you know when Coach Mo is on, man. So we
For
can
sure.
your dad can hear that one as well, man. So thanks for coming on, man. I seen a kid in the background. Tell the kid we said hi.
My daughter, man. Yeah. It's my daughter,
Tell her
man.
we
My
said hi,
13-year-old,
man.
man.
Yeah, tell her, man.
I
Hey, tell her
appreciate you
all the.
guys, man. I
Oh
think
yeah,
you guys
definitely,
doing
man.
a great thing, man. Really great thing, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Keep
All
up the
right,
good
man.
work,
Thanks for
fellas.
coming on, man.
Oh man,
Thanks for
thanks for
having
coming
me,
on,
guys.
Bob. Appreciate it. All right,
All
man.
right, peace, boys. All right, for sure.
On that Skyline note, hey, if anybody can get us in touch with Giannis, we trying to get in touch with Giannis. We want to get Giannis on the show, but hell, I don't know how to reach him. So if somebody know how to reach him, definitely get in touch with us.
Jason Van Eck. What's his name?
Jason Van Eck.
And
Jason Van Eck. Yeah, we want to get those two. Everybody, there are other Skyline dudes we want to get on the show, but we have contacts for them. Those Jason Van Eck and Giannis Davis, we can't find them, but we really, really want to get them on the show. So if somebody can help us out with that, that'd be great. Cool, man. Well, shit, low, man. Another bomb episode, man. Thank you guys for all your support. Check us out on Instagram, Rec Center TV. Also, you can catch this episode and others on our YouTube page, The Rec Center. I'm Kenny Edwards. Lorenzo Parham.